If you'd like to be our next guest on ENTA Asks, just click the link below.
Hope you enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of ENTA Asks. I'm Adam Colazetti.
And I'm Caitlin Bullock.
And today we are so excited to be hanging out at the Rocky Cross group of companies. And I have with me Lory Perizzolo, the COO, and Ryan Thelwell, the Director of Business Development. So guys, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Welcome and glad to have you.
So the last time we got to hear your story, and that's episode 2, episode 1, we heard Ryan's story. And these stories were super powerful because you guys never really set out to be here, but once you were here, it was game over. That is what I'm meant to do. I'm changing lives, I'm helping people. So go check out those episodes if you haven't seen them. Today we get to hear about the behind the scenes of the fires, the floods, and the hailstorm. What has all happened? Because we all hear about it, and if you're in it, you might know a little bit more if you got the damage. But for other people, it's kind of, you hear it in the news and then it goes away, but it's not the reality. So tell us some stories. I want to get into it.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting industry that we live in. So again, I know I mentioned this during our last segment, but we usually are the last thing that somebody thinks about until something happens. But one of the stories we wanted to share was the flood in 2013. Well, it was such a big event that it captured the country's attention. It was such a big undertaking, and it was pretty much like all hands on deck. I wasn't with RCC at the time, but one of the stories I learned about when Al Welton, our owner, was involved was the floods. The zoo.
Everybody knows that the zoo flooded, right?
Yeah. Right. You guys remember the zoo flooded out. The hippo almost got out.
Yeah, well, that was my job, was to throw on a wetsuit and track down the hippo.
Yeah,
don't jump on it.
That was actually, because this has become somewhat of an urban legend that somebody had to swim in.
That was me!
No, he just rides the hippos the summer.
Gotcha.
But it's the zoo's such an iconic part of the city, and when everything happened, that was one of the stories that we heard about. So when the opportunity came, and again, I wasn't here at the time, but I was just getting into the industry at the time, so that was kind of my introduction.
Yeah.
And Rocky Cross was contacted with regards to restoring the zoo.
Okay.
It was such a big undertaking. It was the flood. There was so much damage that, we knew that it wasn't something that we could do on our own. So we did get a couple other restoration companies that came on board, and we worked together as a team to be, I guess I wouldn't say sectioned off, but we were all given different projects to do within the entire compound.
So where do you even start with something that big, right?
Oh gosh! First of all, you got to wait till the water goes down, right? But it was such a big undertaking. There was so much mud. Animals were displaced. Yeah. You got to think some of the.
Did you get to take home some of the animals?
Oh gosh!
That would have been cool.
Just the trash, right?
Just the trash.
And you got to realize some of the exhibits they're specialized to fit the specific animal needs for the animals that are there, right? So we were learning on the fly. For me personally, we've got 4 kids, my wife and I have 4 kids, so we spend a lot of time at the
zoo. Yeah.
So we're proud, right? I go there. Nobody's gonna know that it was Rocky Cross or companies that restored the zoo. They see the end product. For me, there was a sense of pride when I'm there and I'm walking around with the kids, and we go into one of the buildings and think that this was completely underwater.
Yeah.
And we played a part in restoring it and getting it back to this.
Yeah,
right?
again,
it's a magical experience.
For sure. It's one of those, like you said, people go there, they see the animals, they continue to enjoy the zoo, and we have that pride that we drive the zoo.
Right. Cool. And you would never have known when you went back in. The place was beautiful, right? Well, and to hear that the water was above, if you go to the hippo exhibit, the water was above the door. It really puts things into perspective when you're there and you see it, right?
Again, it doesn't really affect you unless it's actually affecting you, right? Yeah. So it was kind of an afterthought. But we got some pretty cool pictures of what it was actually like just being there, like being one of the companies that were first on scene, right? Once water or rescinded.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experience to see the pictures. Again, I wasn't there, but I've seen an opportunity to see some of the pictures and
right?
before after. It's pretty neat experience.
Absolutely. To do something so powerful, because it is iconic to this city.
It is.
And it is just, it's a magical experience, like watching your kids go through it and they're like their face lighting up, right? And just to have it back to all its glory, like, thank you. My kids love it.
It's interesting, just one of the things about this job is like, we do so much work. We have a lot of commercial clients downtown, and we do a lot of work downtown, and we drive by this, like, hey, we did that right there. And the kids kind of look like, Dad, because I think I tell them every time we drive by, yeah, I see that building there. Well,
We did it.
I didn't do any of the heavy lifting. I know we have such an amazing team that they do all the heavy work, but yeah, we fixed that right there. The kids are just, with that, told us 100 times, right?
Yeah.
So there is a sense of pride with what we do.
Absolutely, I can see that. So that's the flood of 2013 at the zoo. Let's go chronologically then. The fires in Fort McMurray. You guys actually had another kind of all hands on deck situation there as well.
Yeah, it was such a dramatic event and such a high volume event from going back to the insurance company side that there wasn't enough capacity locally in Fort McMurray, obviously, or in Northern Alberta for that fact, to be able to handle the magnitude and the number of properties, residential, commercial.
Right.
Everything was affected. Even if it wasn't structurally burnt, there was lots of smoke damage and people evacuated and less of everything in town. So we were asked if we could assist, and we instantly had a number of staff just put their hand up and were willing to do the right thing and go up and spend 2 or 3 months in some cases, longer than that in other cases, to help people that were displaced, help people remediate properties and try to get back to where they were before the fire. So it was a pretty significant event, probably the biggest fire event that we've seen, knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of those where the team came together, and we actually, speaking of Fort McMurray, did the same thing, in fact, almost 12 or 13 months ago with the flooding that occurred in Fort McMurray in 2020.
Yeah.
We put a small team together, and we were able to help a number of commercial clients remediate their buildings and let them get back to business.
Mm-hmm. That's so powerful, because your team leads their families to go up to these places so that other families can get back to their normal, right?
Yeah, that is one of the things that's the most humbling, I think, about being part of such a great family at the Rocky Cross Group, is that there's never a shortage of people that are working here that want to help others. And in the case of Fort McMurray, for both the fire and the flood, we had people out of town, away from their families, away from their homes for weeks, sometimes months on end.
Yeah.
So that does take a lot of fortitude, a lot of mental strength, as you can imagine, to be able to do that and leave your kids behind. But we got lots of people that are more than willing to do it. In fact, I had one of the guys, one of our techs in the pack the other day, ask me, he said, "Hey, Fort Smith is flooding in Northwest Territories. Can you go help?" And it turned out the scope wasn't as extensive that required town mobilization or support, but it's always on the radar. If we can help somewhere, we're going to help somewhere.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I mean, it's complicated going into these areas, right? Like, I don't think anybody was prepared for the magnitude of either the flood or the Fort McMurray fire. And you go up there, and it's not like, this is what we do, step 1, step 2, step 3, right? It's a little more.
It's a different playbook.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics that goes into something like that. And you think when everybody's coming, we're kind of like the fire department. Everybody's coming out, we're coming in, and there was a lot of time spent organizing. We were probably up in Fort Mac a week before it was even open for crews or responders to go in, right? So we were mobilizing, touching base with our insurance partners. We have a general idea of the locations, but we didn't know the damage. At that point, we hadn't had a chance to get in to see it. We didn't know to what extent the damage was. So a lot of time is spent in mobilizing and just making sure that we're all on the same page. So when we do go in, we can just hit the ground running.
Right.
Yeah, at that point, all we had was really aerial imagery from different insurance companies, different consultants that were allowed access for various reasons. So
Right.
all we had was literally aerial imagery to figure out which areas were worst damaged, where were we going to get into first, where could we get it to, where couldn't we?
Yeah.
So a lot of it was making assumptions based on different data points that eventually getting access did help to help us respond quicker.
And it's not like you guys, the fires happened and you kind of wait here until someone calls you, say, okay, now you can come in, right? It's like, no, we're going over there.
Yeah.
We're waiting until it's safe.
You got to be ready
Yeah.
when they need you, and sometimes that means you got to get there early to be ready when they need you, right?
It just goes to being prepared, right? Having that plan in place. And we have a large loss plan that we have here as a company. So each large loss or disaster might be different, but we have a playbook, a general playbook that we follow.
Right.
And then we just kind of shift as needed depending on whatever the situation is.
That's amazing. And then the hail damage that just happened. This is really interesting to me because I was just driving through one of the communities, and I was like, what happened to all these houses? Like, I heard about the hail damage. They're still dealing with that. So what is the process that happens? Because it takes so much time.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, Calgary is not a stranger to hail.
No.
Hailstorms are the hail capital of maybe North America, for sure Canada. So we now know that the June 13th hailstorm last year was the fourth costliest catastrophic event in Canadian history, and it was the costliest hailstorm in Canadian history. On top of that, we know that there was all sorts of material shortages due to the pandemic and delays with shipping and that sort of thing. In fact, we had one supplier that has told all contractors that if you're looking for a specific product, don't even ask for it until March or April 2022.
Right.
So being a restoration contractor and being a full service provider, we're a solutions-based company. All of a sudden that leads us to what kind of solutions can we find for these people if these products aren't available, or if there's too much of a delay, and there's all sorts of dynamics that we have to deal with where maybe someone's trying to sell their house and the deal's not going to go through because the work's not done. So
Right.
we're trying to find solutions to problems that didn't exist without a pandemic.
That's incredible. And the reason why it was so costly, why was it so costly?
Well, in a typical hailstorm, let's just look at any hailstorm we've had before 2020. Hailstones are, there are always a range of size. Typically, you're getting roofing products damaged, you're getting soft metals damaged, and maybe siding damaged. With this storm, we were dealing with roofing, siding, soft metals, windows, doors, garage doors, stonework, paintwork,
It was like
fence work,
fist-size,
stones coming down in a lot of areas. Some
mine
areas.
size fist or Ryan's size fist? There's a difference.
I'd probably say your size fist. With those mitts, it's pretty big.
Woo!
but yeah, that's kind of the magnitude of that storm. In fact, for those that are watching are probably aware that the clouds are seeded. There's a seeding program that's funded by between the government and the insurance companies that help lessen the blow of these storms. And it turns out that storm last year, the storm developed so quickly and it was so big that the pilots physically could not keep up with it. And that's one of the reasons that led to the storms being so big.
Really?
That's crazy.
Increased the damage and the severity.
Sorry, there's a seeding program?
Yeah, they see the clouds.
Okay. Did I miss the boat? What it takes? Please explain this to
We
me.
need the scientists for that. let's just simplify it right down. Planes go into the clouds, seed it with their potion, and reduce the size of the stone.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Pretty
learn
neat.
something new every day. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
pretty
you. I would really appreciate learning that. What about, this might be back into your insurance side of things. Me and my husband have this conversation when we drive. We're like, I wonder, are they forced over the car lots to put those now? You see all of the hail prevention things.
If I was a dealership or running a dealership, I don't think I'd be forced into doing that. I'm just protecting. I think they're just trying to protect their investment because it's such a regular thing now with the amount of storms we're getting, and you probably noticed that the storms are coming earlier.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of discussions. Just go on LinkedIn and look at different conversations that are happening. I mean, climate change is real, and it's causing the storms to be more severe and more frequent fires, more frequent flooding, more frequent hailstorms, and I don't think anyone anticipated a massive storm like we got June 13th. I think it took everyone by surprise, frankly, and we react to it. I mean, for instance, this room that we're in right now, call it bullpen, because this is kind of our war room. When a cat hits, this is where it happens. We get all hands on deck, and I think for the first 3 or 4 weeks of that storm last year, it was literally all hands on deck and just organizing how do we handle thousands of reported claims.
And we're actually sitting right now where the action happens.
That's right.
Right.
And what I think is really cool about that, and I had never thought about this, but when we talk about the front lines during a pandemic, we think of the medical community, but here you guys are, right? An event like this happened, and people's lives need to be returned to normal.
Well, we were deemed essential, right?
Yeah.
And that for that specific reason, like, lives are still going to be turned upside down during the pandemic, right? And we've got to take into account the safety of our people going in, right? With that said, that's still our job. We got to go in, we've got to help, and it's like we were saying, it's tough, and for us, it's like clockwork, right? We kind of know the happen. It might, days might vary, but we know there's going to be hail, right? So again, I keep going back to being prepared. We've got a plan in place, right? We've got scheduling for our project managers just in case. There's no vacations in August.
Yeah.
Right.
Like just because we know typically in August, July, August, these storms are rolling in and rolling out, right? So it's all just a part of what we do, being prepared and knowing it's only a matter of time, right? So,
Well, you guys, you make a great point, because we were talking to Sean from Calgary Contents, right?
yes.
And he's one of your group of companies, right?
Yes.
Those guys, and they handle the contents, and you guys are the construction and the building areas. He said, like, they've actually been asked, oh, you got to come back out because we haven't finished fire. Like, the firefighters are still on site sometimes. Like, you guys are right there at the front line, so you are essential.
Yes.
And you're essentially getting people back to their normal, which after you're going through one of these things, man, it's just such a relief. So you're doing such an amazing thing. And one of the things that I really love that you talked about was you're trying to be innovative, to find ways to make these, like, to get these people back to their normal. You think outside of the box. And that's what we're going to talk about next time, is how you guys really go above and beyond as a team and to help the community, and what you guys give back. And that's what makes Rocky Cross such an amazing company. So I can't wait to get into that. But if insurance companies or property managers want to get a hold of you guys, they want to work with you guys, I'm telling you, you want to work with these guys, how do they get a hold of you?
Yep, a few different ways, of course. Our website, www.rccn.ca. We can be contacted by email at claims@rccn.ca or by phone, 403-252-2550.
Excellent. Come check us out next time. We're going to talk about the power of giving back to the community and what it means to these guys. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as we did. So remember, if you know somebody who should be our guest on our next show, just click the link below.
Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe so that you'll never miss an episode.